welcome to the 14th edition of Byways, which is a fabulous, spectacular event. I got here in 2003 and they had the first Byways presentation here in the library in 2004. And it was a strange little event because we all crowded in a corner over there and everyone was being very reluctant to read, and it was quite quiet and dry and not very exciting. So I let it go for 1 year because I was kind of new and I didn't want to step on any toes. So this year, now that I've got a lot of years under my belt, so to speak, you see the extravaganza in front of you, food and drink and music and entertainment. And so I welcome you to the 14th reading presentation of Byways. And it's a very student-led thing, so let the students take over.
I'm Mike Matthews. I'm the faculty sponsor and invisible delegator of things. Right? Is that a good title? Okay. Let's see, around 2002, I started getting training unbeknownst to me to take over Byways as the faculty sponsor. Melissa, her name is Melissa Richardson Curtis now. Started this back in 2000, 2001. And since I started doing this, it gives me the opportunity to work with many different people from different departments, a lot of the people here at the library, and a lot of different groups of students and the printing office and everything. So I get to run around in the ice and snow and barefoot and so on. But everyone submits work starting in the fall and trickles in all semester long. And I've been trying to get the word out to all the campuses, everywhere, for all the students, everywhere. And I think we got one submission from out of state this time. The first time I tried it, I got some from Germany and Afghanistan and so on. And one person drove all the way down from Oklahoma for the presentation. It was awesome. And I'm trying to continue to get the word out everywhere so people will submit. And it's fantastic. This presentation makes it all worthwhile to get to celebrate all the artwork, to encourage more submissions, to encourage more and more quality work being brought in from art, sculpture, jewelry, anything. There's a lot of good work, and I have been working with this awesome group of student editors. Four student editors. One couldn't make it; she got unfortunately ill. It's been a really good group to work with, and here are your chieftresses, the chieftresses of all Byways. So I leave it over to you, and thank you so much for working with me on this Byways this year. It's awesome.
The first piece in our presentation is Tranquility by Ryan Brady. I had the pleasure of working with this to design the cover of Byways. You see it all over the place. And I didn't want to lose any part of it. I didn't want to crop anything. I didn't want to shrink it. I wanted you to feel what it was that I felt when I first saw his painting. I don't know that this does it justice, but I want to invite Ryan Brady up to talk about his piece.
Hi.
Why is that piece so awesome?
Because I took the time to get it very meticulous. All the little tiny details, from shading it, making it sure that the light source is correct, and all the little hairs along his beard. The fabric of his shirt, I've been told multiple times that it's very realistic. Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind it?
My aunt wanted me to paint the picture, so it was more of a request. And I was like, okay, I guess I could do that. In turn, it turned out to be one of my better pieces out of everything I have done last semester. Yeah, that's how long I've been painting. Yeah, and this is actually my first oil painting, so I spent about a month and a half. The image was found online. So I just copied it basically, adding my own little twist so that just like it's mine and not the photographer's. It's named Tranquility because the hands is kind of like praying. He's taking time to set himself apart, give him more of a serene feel to everyday life. I really don't know what to say.
Where can I see the original?
The original is actually is hung up in the art building across the way. You can go check out multiple artists there. Lots of good pieces. Definitely recommend go and see those. Getting the right colors, making it look as real as possible. It was difficult, and it was a lot of fun actually having fellow students say, "Oh, well, that's really good, but you could do this or this." Have the teacher go. His quite famous is to glaze it, which is just add very depth to the painting. Yeah, it wasn't really hard. It was just fun to create it. All right. Bye.
I am not Brittany. Brittany is our musketeer in arms that is not here this evening due to illness. So I'm going to go ahead and read her foreword for everyone. Byways are defined as roads that are not used very much. They are literally roads less traveled, but we're never told why. It takes a special kind of person to choose an unknown path, to volunteer to enter an unexplored place. It takes courage and originality. These are the people who aren't content with just living. These are the explorers of our world, the ones who want to learn and create and change. That's who they are, and that's what Byways is made of. Oh, adventure, let us journey. Let us be filled with such hope. Let us journey. Let us emerge. Let us experience mercy as we wander over the globe and uncover the world's unknown. Let us journey. Oh, adventure, it has shown me all life's secrets. Oh, adventure, nothing rivals the sheer pleasure or even the sticky sweetness of uncovering life's genius. Oh, adventure, by Brittany Weems. We have a couple pieces that we're going to take out of order from the Byways because of people needing to go and be other places. So,
hello, good afternoon. Really glad to see such a turnout. And my heart goes out to artists and people who are like a little shy in social settings. It was brave of you and wonderful because really, just so you know, we're a good room. Like, we're really here for you. So I want to introduce a poem called Cardinal, Silas Mercado. You will find it on pages 11 and 13. Silas Mercado, please come up and reach both. Oh, perfect. Did I say your name right? Okay. I didn't say your name right. Perhaps you'll correct us.
My name is Silas Mercado, and I'm sorry for whoever I bumped out of their spot, but I've got a class to get to. So, this is a sestina called Cardinal. Sestinas are really wickedly difficult to write, and basically they revolve around six different words, and they end each line of the poem, and they have to be in different orders in every stanza. So it's really difficult to write. You'd think that having that constant would make it a bit easier, but it's not, because you have to arrange everything perfectly. And all of this is completely made up and depressing, so brace yourselves. Okay. The scrawny misfit's moth-eaten shirt was stained and torn, long since snagged on a sharp, twisted jutting hook of the chain metal fence that his father's car had driven through one night. He was the only sign of movement in the dimness. The moon was not particularly bright. Although the danger had passed, the misfit continued his flight, choking as his retinas burned with the ghost of a blood-splattered raincoat and a makeshift club. A jumble of memories flitted through his mind, gathering pebbles for their secret club, random late-night video game marathons, and the way they were both torn between putting the wounded fledgling they'd found to rest or releasing it into flight. He recalled how badly his little brother wanted to save it, said its talons were like a hook, made for clinging on a branch and singing to the sky, "We gotta save it." His smile was bright as they cleaned the bird's wings, and he whistled like that cardinal for the rest of the night. The misfit would never hear his little brother whistle again. A bird, betrayed by the night, a bloody, rotten, silent song, quelled by the driftwood and broken glass makeshift club, and the raincoat, slick with sticky blood, that glistened like a warning, dangerous and bright. Like the day he and his brother saved the bird, the misfit was torn. Father's bloody raincoat, reeking of vodka in their dilapidated house, pierced him like a hook, and he knew he'd never return. There was no home when his brother's spirit had taken flight. The misfit didn't know where to go. His shoes pounded the sidewalk in his breathless flight, as he thought about the way his brother always saw sunshine where he only saw night, able to find a soft strength within those calloused misfit hands, like the bird's talon hook. His hands would never harm another soul, would never grip a club and smite a fragile bird's skull, its boyish youth mashed by broken glass until it was gashed and torn. He was not his father's son. He oozed with ire so fierce that his cheeks flushed red and bright. The bitter cold subdued all life, or did the earth grieve as well? And only the stars were bright as the misfit trudged as far away from his broken heart as his feet could carry him. His flight seemed directed towards a goal of safety, not for his body, but for his mind and soul, torn by the echoes of hysterical shrieks as the light in the bird's eyes vanished with the night. He wished he'd hidden his brother better so he wouldn't have been bludgeoned with the club. He wanted to die instead of the freckle-faced youth, now a bloody fresh cut for a meat hook. On the fence outside of the misfit's house there was a sharp, twisted, jutting hook. It glinted on sunny days like a dazzlingly dangerous trick of the light, warm and bright. The misfit thought the hook was a perfect beacon for the headquarters of his secret club. At the time he was 12, his brother 9. One day they watched a bird take flight near the fence and fall, impaled and twitching on the hook where it remained for the night. The misfit whistled quietly to the bird until it died. His little brother looked utterly torn. While his brother wept, the misfit began singing. It's hurt by the hook, but in heaven takes flight, where the trees will be green and the sun will be bright, but it has to live through this terrible night. His brother beamed as he continued, "Next time our club meets, we'll pray. Don't look so torn."
Another order adjustment, or sequence rather. We have Nature's Canvas by Shandi. She also has to leave early. It has a sort of the appeal that a lot of people would be able to relate to. You have that staring up at the clouds, sort of wondering where life will take you. Shandi, would you mind coming up?
Hello. So this is a digital photograph. I took it in Burnett County in 2010, and it is undoctored. This is a straight photograph. I can't remember if I took it with my camera or actually with the camera on my phone, which is actually a horrible thing to admit. If you take any pictures on your camera phone, they are substandard. But when I got my last phone, actually the camera was the main reason why I got it, because it had a decent camera on it. And so it let me save moments like this when I'm out driving around and I see something and I will stop and roll my window down and take some shots. So the reason I submitted this one, I also prefer oils on canvas. And in fact, that's how I got my start in photography. Was I wanted to capture those moments and take them back later when I had copious amounts of free time, like after I graduate, to be able to go and paint them. And in fact, that's normally what I do, is I'll paint from a photograph, or maybe several photographs, depending on what I'm bringing in. So that's why I took the picture. But anyway, as you can see, it came out. It looks like a painting to me, and that's why I love it, and that's why I submitted it. So, any questions? You don't have to. Yay, okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Yes.
We'll next bring up Hannah Romo, reading her poem, Footprints. Missing Footprints. Please come.
Alrighty, as for this poem, I don't really have any type of inspiration to it. It's just whatever comes to mind and whatever pops in my head at the point. Alright, I find myself retracing my steps, searching for hints in light of missing footprints. Each tree in this forest creaks under the burden of steadfast roots, unmoving. Thick trunks hunched over amidst the quiet sound of rustling leaves, watching, listening with unseen ears. Where does the journey lie? Why is the path hidden in an endless circle? Thank you.
We have another art piece called Distant View by Robert Bird. I'd like to point out some of the excellent execution of technical skill that he has here with the one-point perspective. He even has the lines on the jetty going off into the distance where they converge at their own point. And each of the planks have their own value scale, and it's amazing. Robert?
Wow, that's a lot of people. Well, I like to draw landscapes, and I had picked out this image about 5 minutes before class on Google Images because I took about 5 of them, and I went to Mr. Hines, the art teacher, for drawing one, and he suggested this one. Now, this took me almost about 2 to 3 weeks. The darker areas were very hard they were hard because every time I would the night before I would just draw and darken it, and I would go to class the next day and Mr. Hines would say, "You got to make it darker." And it just irritated me. I would run the charcoal pencil I had, run it along there, and I would take a little bit of napkin and distribute it to where it almost looks like it's faded. Any other questions? Right?
All right, our next poem is Self Dance, which is by one of our editors, Randy. We let Brittany do the picking for this, so I don't actually have anything I can really say about it other than it's a really interesting poem about self-discovery. So,
I was a gypsy long traveled until I found that I am my home. Cobalt blue dancer winding through the wind. I have danced in the desert unmindful of danger. I have cavorted through sparkling brooks unto the ocean. I have spun through my life as the sun, ruler of the heart. Connection with my moon man, ruler of feelings. I bring to myself all I may care for, and I may care for much. I am blessed with intrinsic chronos, for it all took so much time. I have healed the spirit. I have the healed spirit that once was a turned away from child. I am a celebration of all the wishes that were ever made on stars. All of the books, the words, the phrases joyfully tumble through my thoughts. They are my pictures as I write my dance. Thank you.
Next, we have an image by Milton Rios called Snow Blue. Is Milton here? No? Okay. What I enjoyed about this image, not only that it's about snowboarding, because that's pretty cool, but the way he executed the gradient for the blue in the background, as well as the foreshortening in the foreground with the hand coming forward. That's pretty convincing for the most part. The composition of the piece that he chose to paint is also very interesting. You know, you want to turn with it, you want to, you know, it's just a very visually interesting perspective. Thank you.
Our next literature piece is Perplexing Creation by Phyllis D. Smith. Is she here?
Life is sometimes everything we dream and often more than we can glean. Creators have heaved heavenly skyscrapers in beautiful Dubai, while we on this side wring our hands trying not to cry. Our system feels broken beyond repair, and there's major hatred in the air. The traffic is still heavy, though we don't know for how long, because we're not sure when the gas will all be gone. Daily, we host 24-hour crime while we question the perpetrator's mind. Ladies of the evening and gamblers still have their thrones. For massage parlor scholars, Charles, Willie, and John always come along. A brothel within Zuma was once a rumor. Gamblers have been around since the first decade and will endure as long as there are spades. Dope dealers and gangbangers are really on the haul. They connect anywhere with a text or a call. Mission accomplished for Mary Jane in some places, Colorado, leaving it mostly a non-issue. There continues to be the fresh old man with the cute sports car who thinks he can interest a frat schoolboy. And the woeful wino dreamed of becoming an actor, struggles to hold up the wall because he's no longer sober enough to attend the cattle call. Life isn't always fair or actual, but horrible date rapes are factual. Some ministers lay claim to so much, often by way of the unsuspecting church. School students can't pledge in God's name, but executions continue to be carried out to everyone's pain. Doctors and nurses do their share of providing us with the blank of care, but we're all lost in skyrocketing medical cost. We continue to mourn the tragedy of a princess to die, Whitney Houston and other socialites on high. We're constantly reading, watching, needing, or channeling the ones called celebrities. There's always a small elite horde on the list of Forbes. Plenty continue to die young because we are a nation that's come undone. Our veterans suffer a lot, and many are among the have-nots. For years, those in charge have declared war, but it's never really clear what we're fighting for. We deal with the pressures of falling stocks while trying to remedy problems in Afghanistan and Iraq. Outrageously, we spend taxpayers' money to film a Jodi Arias trial of lies. Billions are spent to help float others' boats as ours subside with the tide. Our country has no reason to be broke, and the rising price of petroleum is a national joke. Hideous news headlines reek of cruelty to animals, children, and older folk. The practice is cruel, but tends to be an ongoing rule. Most can't determine if concern should be with evolution, revolution, air pollution, or space aviation, but by any measure of understanding or imagination. We are a pitiful, perishing, perplexing creation.
Our next poem is Creation by Catherine Levati. We paired these two together, the Perplexing Creation and Creation, because we thought it would be an interesting contrast. I mean, they're both very dark, well, not an interesting contrast, an interesting complement, because they're both very dark and brooding. If you would come up, please.
Hi, this is something I wrote, just pretty much talks about how I feel about myself and what I think I am and what I mean to everything. So, I was molded from the long dead ashes of my father's cigarettes. The creators cracked open my skull and poured mercury in the cavity to create what they dared to call a mind. They bound me together with the sinews of washed up dreams, and I am fashioned from so many things that I am nothing, and I am everything. They formed my disgusting heart from a lump of overused clay and begged it to beat. They fabricated my hair with the colorless void of lost souls. They carved my bones from the glacier that sunk the Titanic and warmed me with the heat between the cheeks of two lovers. I am always wanting more, more, more. I am nothing, and I am everything. And since I am so sloppily thrown together, you must handle me with care or I will crumble. The mercury will leak from my mind, a selfish wind will come along and steal away the ashes. A reborn spirit will undo my stitching and relive their lost dreams. Then they will pick up the nothingness left behind and leave me under a weeping willow. The words they write on my stone will say nothing and will say everything.
Every time I hear her read something, my heart stops. Next, we have Patterns of Light by Sarah Johnson. This piece was chosen for the poster art, which I had the pleasure of designing. It was a task for me because I wanted it to be just right. I wanted it to embody everything that Byways was and still be interesting and correct.
Hi everyone. So I took Professor Hines' art class last semester, his life drawing, and we actually ended up working with charcoal about halfway through the semester, and I discovered I was okay with it. So this was one of the pieces that he required everyone to bring in a piece that they drew on their own. And so I actually took this picture myself. My mom had these 3 candles that she had never lit, and I saw them and asked if I could take a picture of them lit, and she was very hesitant because they'd never been lit before. But she let me light them, and I took the picture and drew it from there. And I was pretty pleased with the result. So, anyone have any questions?
How old are you?
Thank you, Mom. I'm actually a dual enrollment student at CTC, so I just turned 17. So I'm still in high school. But
That's okay.
That's good.
One of our other editors wanted to know how you managed to get the flames to look like they were glowing.
I have no idea. I just made sure that I left that very, very white and didn't add much color to it because otherwise it would have blended in with everything else, and I wanted the flame itself to be very bright and brilliant. I've always thought that fire is so beautiful. I mean, it's dangerous, but it's so beautiful. And so I really liked the idea of drawing candles, and those were pretty candles.
Did you feel any constraint because you couldn't use color? I mean, was that difficult to get the illusion of light without color?
Not really. Actually, the picture that I took, even the picture that was in color, didn't have much color to it. Besides, I mean, there was a little yellow-orange color, but I think I changed it to black and white before I drew from the picture. So I really liked how I'm surprised I managed to do this, but I did. How when I took the picture, the front candle was very, very clear, and it as it went back, it was not as, each candle was a little less clear than the one before it, and I liked how I was able to add that into my drawing. Okay, so this is my other one that I submitted. This one was actually, we drew this one in class, and so we had a bunch of stuff set up. There were boxes and bottles and skulls, and I think there was a pot, and there was a bunch of stuff that we could draw, and so everyone would choose their own aspect of this pile of interesting stuff. And so this is, those were the few things that I chose to draw, and we spent, oh goodness, probably at least a month, probably a month and a half with this thing set up in the classroom, and we would come in and we would sit down in the exact same place every time and draw and finish drawing. So that was my very first charcoal piece, and I really like it. I am hoping to go into college for costume design, so that's sort of art, but yeah, not so much charcoal, which makes me sad because I love drawing with charcoal. Okay, I named both of those pieces not thinking that they would be chosen, so I don't know. I was like, it looks really Western and Texas-y, and we just moved to Texas, so yeah. Well, my dad's in the military, so we move around a lot. We own a house in North Carolina, and we've lived mostly on the East Coast, so we just moved from Virginia Beach. Drawing, the glass. Actually, that was the easiest part. Because I did a lot of drawing battles, and now I'm actually gotten pretty good at it. Once you figure out just each bottle is almost the same, you have the same way that you draw each bottle no matter how it's shaped or whatever. So yeah, I enjoyed drawing it. The one off to the side was a little more difficult because you could see through it partially, but I enjoyed the bottles. All right, thank you.
This poem, Afrique, Mon Afrique, is by Mr. Diop. And this poem was translated by Zandre Nafi. I have done translations before. In previous Byways, one of the first few that I was starting to sponsor, a student sent a poem in Spanish. I don't know Spanish. I know French, but it's very rusty. I haven't been in West Africa in a very long time. And Dr. Schweitzer helped me translate it into English so that we could present the Spanish and the English on both sides. And after that, I needed a Sam's Club-sized bottle of ibuprofen. It's a lot of work. And I found out this is actually a translation. This is the original in French from Mr. Diop. And Nafi did a really beautiful job of translating it. And I know how much work that takes. I know even with poetry, unbelievable. To get the right word, to get the right image, it's crazy. It's just mind-blowing how to do that cross-culturally, cross-language, everything. I wish she's here. She's I think our first student from Burkina Faso, right? Yes, you know, right? Yes, I don't think we've ever had a student from Burkina Faso here. So she's from Burkina Faso, and merci bien pour la translation de la poème là. C'est très bien ça. Merci bien. It's very difficult work, so you know that. Thank you.
All right, our next one is Open Heart by Anderson James. It's a really lovely poem, and if Anderson would come up and read it, please.
Open heart. This world needs to have an open heart, not always taking from each other, but each one doing our part. Neighbor looking after neighbor with the utmost concern. Take a true interest in one another. One day you teach, one day you learn. Listen when our brothers speak, the strong holding up the weak. Strive for peace at home and abroad. Our neighbors' accomplishments we should applaud. There's plenty of this land to share. There would be more if we took time to care. Care for each other like family. Not let the homeless live on the streets. Clean up the slums and end the crime. Wake up world while there's still time. Time for you, time for me, time for all the world to see. Let's wake tomorrow to a better day. An open heart can pave the way. Thank you.
Next up, we have Photo Booth Kiss by Ryan Brady. I just want to say a couple things about this piece. He explained to me that it's not necessarily incomplete, even though it looks like that on the projector for that piece. And I originally interpreted it as being incomplete. And that struck me in the way that there's so much technical skill going on. You know, he's putting in all of the detail work, and then it just drops off. And it says that the piece is incomplete, just like the social issues we're dealing with are unresolved.
Hi again. This was done in a technique called stippling, which is a bunch of little dots. Very, very, very time consuming. I think this piece took me a good like 2 months, constant, just going at it all the time. These two characters are from a TV show that I watch. It's Teen Wolf, and I enjoy their friendship. Somebody photo manipulated it and made it into a series, and I just chose one of the few scenes in the series.
Now, are you saying it's incomplete, or is that just her version?
Technically, it is incomplete. She saw it as the shirt, the white shirt, but in the actual photo, it's like a bright white, so there's no actual like big details in there I can show up on a camera, but the jacket is supposed to be like a lot darker, like almost black. The one on the left, the actor's name is Dylan O'Brien. Stiles Stilinski is the character's name, and the one on the right is Tyler Hoechlin. That's the actor's name, and it's Derek Hale is the character's name. The Derek in the series he's very secretive, very very dark, and just alone by himself. He's a lone wolf. And Stiles is not the main character, but he's kind of a comic relief, and he kind of brings the seriousness out of everybody, gives it a much more lively feel to the show. Well, in the beginning anyways, but we won't go into that detail. I used the Micron pens, and then I also used like regular pens, like the ballpoint pens. 0.03, yeah, of a millimeter. So it's really tiny, yeah.
Do you do sketching first and then you?
Yeah, I just do the basic outline with the pencil. I try to refrain from the shading so that I can see where all my dots are. Give it more of an interactive, I put a lot of thought into it when I'm doing it. Yeah. Anything else?
Up next, we have Figure by Khadija Alexander. That's me. It is done in charcoal. It was an assignment that Mr. Hines gave us to choose our own image. And I was having a really hard time with charcoal. I'd never used it before. It's hard to manipulate when you don't know what to do with it. And he has this thing, the main objective of drawing is learning to see. So I felt like I wasn't seeing anything. So I picked this one because she's blindfolded. In a way, it represents me and my transition period at that time, learning to use charcoal, learning to draw, learning to see when I had so much doubt about myself. This is my first charcoal piece. I think it is successful, but far from perfect. I spent about a month and a half working on this and avoiding the hands and feet. And one night, it's like, I really have to get it done. I need to just go for it. Hands and feet are always hard. And I had a couple drinks and just went for it. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, is it a part maybe of a yoga pose, or is she actually doing like a creative dance, or what is that position?
I'm not 100% sure. It's a photographer that I follow on DeviantArt. He takes some really fantastic figures. His pictures are very creative. The lighting is interesting. And so, it just suited me at the time. That, I think, was the easiest part for me for the light parts, because it was so defined as light, whereas the areas that have more value change to get that transition, the shading, the gradients of gray, rather, was more difficult for me. Okay, so the student art show is up in the art building, and it features some of the work that is in Byways, as well as some work that wasn't completed in time to be submitted or chosen, or they just weren't aware. But it is all fantastic work, and I strongly suggest that you all go have a look, maybe right after here. Just walk on over there. It's just right in the hallway. Anything else? Thank you. Before I leave, I would like to introduce Amber Graves, her poem about dyslexia. Very, very unique. Enjoy.
I'm not even going to try and actually read this for you. I can, but I'm not going to jumble the words as they are on the page. You have dyslexia, but you're so smart. This is something someone actually said to me. Can you imagine a world where the words rearrange themselves right on the page, right before your eyes? Where the sentences just seem to run together into one stream of consciousness with no pause between the words? Where sometimes the letters just dance all over the page like they're part of a ballet. Sometimes the letters just seem to change size right on the page, where homophones seem to be a complete waste of time. And there's no making sense or reason with rhyme. And sometimes you just have to reread the entire page because a line is missing when it's really there. A world full of tricks taught to tame the realm of the written, like isolating each word to unlock a passage meaning, or deconstruction. And word deconstruction definitely helps. Reading a sentence backwards to find context clues. Bigger, easier to read fonts aid in this pursuit. Having colored films or colored glass lenses to still the restless words. Even colored letters on colored pages. Pause the dancing letters. Welcome to the hidden universe of dyslexia. I have had people tell me that this poem has given them headaches, it has made them dizzy, and that is my everyday. I will be reading something brand new and all of a sudden an entire passage will be gone. And I go from one paragraph to the other because, wait, that doesn't make sense. That's exactly how it is. Any questions?
Are you dyslexic?
Yes, I am dyslexic. I was one of the lucky ones. The mid-90s is when dyslexia started actually being addressed in school. So I was one of those lucky ones that came into school in the mid-90s when they were addressing it, instead of before then when they were treating dyslexics as stupid or lazy. and introduce Affairs by Ashley Cobb. It's a really interesting sort of trip through the mind of someone who is going through a divorce. Is Ashley here?
First, I want to say I'm sorry. I have to leave to go pick up my son, so I won't be able to talk much about it or read it to you.
Do you want us to put your phone next?
Yeah, that's fine. I wore this shirt because I love irony. It says best wife ever. You know, I am. I got married again. It's actually, it's true. It's what was going on in my mind whenever I was going through my first marriage, which was like 5 years ago. It still kind of hurts because like a divorce, when you get married, you don't really think about, you forget to remember the good things. And then when you're going through a divorce, it brings it all back. So, I'm not gonna read it, because as you see, I'm an emotional mess, and I'm pregnant, so it just makes it worse. My poem, I can read that, because it's happy. It's really not much to say about this poem. It's mainly about my marriage now. I'll read it. Roses are red, violets are blue. For all of their beauty, they can't match the hue of your skin as it glistens in the evening shade, as the light warmly bathes and rolls off in waves. With you, life has beauty. It holds purpose and grace, from the warmth of your hand to the smile on your face. Sometimes life is hard, the world can be cruel, and leave you exposed, feeling a fool. But no matter what troubles, I'll be there to tend. You're the love of my life from beginning to end. Cheesy, but cute. But thank you. I really appreciate it. It really makes me feel like I'm being heard, like I'm a good writer. So, thanks.
Next up, we have Restless Soul by Chanel Fisher. Is she here? Chanel? You're there.
She just got here.
She just got here. I really enjoy this one because if any one of you have taken a class with Mr. Hines, you know he has those skulls set out there, and he probably produces, I don't know, somewhere between 50 skull drawings per semester. I said between, anyway. This one has, just first looking at it, I didn't know it was a skull without, registering Mr. Hines in my head. It has a really abstract appeal to it, and I like that.
Yeah, this skull is a charcoal. I did it last year in spring semester. I chose it because not a lot of people were doing skulls in the classroom. So I chose it because of the difficulty of it. It had lots of shape to it. Lots of shadows, lots of highlights. It wasn't just a simple circle or simple shape. And so I chose it, and when I was doing it, I was like, man, it kind of got to me. I was so into it. I was like, the meaning of it, I was like, this used to be something, an animal, used to be it had like sort of a life essence to me. That's why I call it the restless soul, because it has a sort of meaning to it of some living being that used to be living, and now it's a skull, a prop, but it still has that little bit of meaning to it. So yeah, that's why I chose it. So yeah.
Next, we have The Horse by LeVay Bird. She was in the creative writing 1 class with me and Khadija, and she has this very interesting poem about, I suppose, freedom and being something different. So, LeVay, if you would.
I'm actually really terrified right now, but I'll be okay. I actually enjoyed writing this poem because that's how I I've always loved horses, and every time I see a horse, I see this image of basically majesty and one of God's awesome creations. So here it is. Wild, free, formed in majesty, nobility, and courage. His mane and tail fly like banners in the wind. His nostrils explode in his breath. The ground shakes beneath his hooves as he thunders across the plains. His cry, a trumpet's blast, resonates in the air as if to laugh at the face of danger. Across the land he soars, his blazing eyes fixed ahead, flying, flying, flying into eternity. Thank you.
And we'd like to bring Catherine Lavati back up here to read her Monsters to Men, which is a really kind of deep poem if you think about it.
God created monsters out of men, but refused to give women venomous blood. So now the monsters pick their teeth clean with my bones.
Next up, we have Piston Tired by Jennifer Walters. Just a couple things I wanted to say. She does a fantastic job of capturing emotion, and it shows in this piece. I also like the fact that the perspective is looking down on the children like we do as taller people, making them seem even smaller than they are.
This was a piece of my cousin's. It was their first Halloween, and pretty much the result of the end of the day, ready to get the costumes off and eat the candy. Took me a couple of days to do. Charcoal is my favorite thing to use, and once I start doing it, just get it down on paper. I had a photograph, but it was off of a cell phone, and it was very blurry, so I kind of had to make everything up. I just had to remember it from memory.
You told them they couldn't eat the candy first and then took a picture?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
They say whenever a picture tells the story, and you know exactly where that is.
Okay.
Too cute.
I won't embarrass the author of this one too much. There he is. He's been helping us see the slides and so on. And asked if I could come up and talk about it a little bit. It's a really hilarious play. I worked with Chris on this one for a while. In my creative writing class where we do plays, poems, and fiction. And when he told me about the idea, I was a little bit worried about how some of the action and ideas would come across reading it on the page as simultaneous actions. I was a little worried, are you going to be so technical and have and give directions, stage directions, have light here and have light here and have them going on and off? I was a little concerned. And then he turned it in, and I saw it completely. I just said, you have to do this more. You didn't even do it enough. I went totally the opposite way, gave it back to him, almost rewrote the whole thing myself, right? In red. I didn't bring it, but yeah, I thought it was hilarious, and it needs to be on stage. Isn't there a person in the audience who's one of these characters?
There are actually two. Matt and Jared in the back table there.
Oh, sure.
The play is actually based loosely. The play is actually based loosely off of a role-playing group that I play with on the weekends. Two of the characters are based off of, like I said, Matt and Jared in the middle row back seat. More than anything, I just took their characters' personalities and thinned them down because this was only supposed to be a one-scene play. But as I was writing it, I found that I couldn't compress them enough. So it started to run on and run, and eventually I just had to cut it down to the point where it was, 8 pages?
Yeah, needs to be more now.
As he said. I had a lot of fun writing it, but I also had a lot of fun with the game that it's based off of, so that's not saying much.
Next, we have another piece by Jennifer Walters called Inspiration that I totally enjoy. I can relate to a lot of these different pieces that she pulls together to influence her work. And it's done in marker, which is different from a lot of the things we've been seeing. Jennifer?
Well, this piece was originally supposed to be a self-portrait in class, but I didn't want to draw myself, so I drew my art table and everything that inspired me over the years and got me to the point where I am now in drawing. And pretty much kind of accurate of what my table looks like right now. Just a jumbled mess. And that's pretty much about it. That's actually a character from one of my favorite shows. It's an artist that inspired me to start drawing. It's My Neighbor Totoro. My Neighbor Totoro.
Next, we have a piece called Ferocity by Isabella Mendoza. Is she here? Does it not look like it? I like this one as well. It takes advantage of complementary colors and the way they interact together, the orange and the blue. It brings a certain vibrance to the image when those colors are placed next to each other. And everybody likes tigers. That's all I have for that one. Now, before we continue, I just have a couple things I wanted to say about how art has influenced my academic progress. I want to be a medical doctor at some point in the near future, and I struggled with biology. I walked into Mr. Hines' art class and I thought I was good at it until first couple assignments, and I wanted to be better. What he did was put us in a situation where we had a problem. The problem was that we have a 3D object and we needed to capture that form, the shape, onto a two-dimensional piece of paper. And as time went on, you solve the problem, you draw it on the paper, however you do it, and it evolves. You innovate your ideas of how you solve that problem in the beginning. And something happened in my biology classes. When I looked down the microscope the first time, I didn't understand what I was seeing. After taking the drawing class, I was able to discern more. I could see lines, I could see shapes, and things started to make sense. I had the vocabulary, but I wasn't able to tell what I was looking at. The other thing that biology does is they simplify things, which is necessary, but that's not the real world. When you're looking at a slide, you're seeing a two-dimensional representation of a cell. Cells are not two-dimensional. It's very misleading, those books. You think things are simple and they're really not. With the drawing class, I had the reverse problem, make this 3D thing two-dimensional. After working through that, I was able to do it in reverse. I was able to conceive things in 3 dimensions. I got abstract concepts easier. I cannot imagine my life without art, and I don't think I'd be a very good doctor if I didn't do art. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and read something before Miss Swan comes up and, kicks us all out of here. This is the epilogue for the book. There is no greater feeling of frustration than that taunting, blinking cursor as you're trying to come up with something creative and new from nothing. So working on Byways was a very creatively liberating experience. Instead of working from nothing, we were given a trove of treasure-colored puzzle pieces to build something unique and lasting. Every single piece in this year's Byways is special and brilliant.
Talk about collaboration and communication and how we all work together, and this, I've got to say, has been the best editorial team we've ever had the good fortune to work with. Really, really give a round of applause to them.
I'd like to embarrass the president and the secretary of the Writers Club to come up here and plug us. Come on.
Okay, so she means by secretary and president, we're actually secretary and president of the Writers Club at CTC. I've actually been the secretary for 3 years, and he was actually nominated last year. So we actually all welcome y'all to join the club. It's Mondays. Next week is actually our last meeting this semester, but we start back up in the fall. But what we do basically is some people submit their stuff, stories, poems, like chapters in their novel, and we read it the week before and then we critique it. And it helps the writer make their work better before they submit it to an actual author or a publisher or whatever.
We've done that. Several of us have been published here in Byways, some other materials. One of our former members is even an actual poet. And we do the critiques. We also do various exercises. Some we've picked up from fellow students, some from the classes. It gets kind of weird, kind of funny, kind of uncomfortable. But we have a lot of fun. We enjoy each other's company 90% of the time. And it does help because Khadijah mentioned with her charcoal painting, it was done, but it wasn't as done as she would like it. That's something I've learned, and I think several others have learned in writing. You'll finish something, you won't like it, but you'll have to move on. And sometimes sharing it with the others will give you ideas on how to improve it. Sometimes it'll help you realize what works. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just gonna set this aside or submit it as it is. Because that's one of the hardest parts. Even if you don't think it's ready, you have to put it out there sometimes.
And this does not mean submit your homework. But yeah, I hope y'all join the Writers Club next year or next week.